The night I lost everything did not arrive with fire or thunder. It came quietly, like a thief, slipping through a door I didn't realize I'd left unlocked. It began with a single phone call, the kind that cracks your world in half. I had worked 10 years at the factory. 10 years of waking before the sun, 10 years of steel-toed boots and aching shoulders, 10 years of trading time for a paycheck that barely kept food on the table. And then, just like that, it was gone. A voice on the other end of the line, detached and professional, telling me the company was cutting back, downsizing, eliminating positions. My position. I sat on the edge of the bed, the receiver pressed to my ear long after the line went dead, staring at the pattern in the carpet until the room blurred. 10 years, reduced to a sentence. 10 years dismissed in less than a minute. I told myself it was just a job, that I would find another. But deep inside, I knew it was more. That place had been my identity, my proof that I was useful, dependable, necessary. Without it, I was stripped bare. I thought I had reached the worst of it, but the universe has a cruel way of showing you that rock bottom always has another floor beneath it. Marielle, my wife, didn't take the news the way I had hoped. I wanted her to sit with me, to hold my hand, to tell me we would figure it out together. Instead, she stood in the kitchen, her arms crossed, her eyes sharper than I had ever seen them. You failed us. You failed me. I won't raise the kids with a man who can't even hold on to a job. The words gutted me. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked under the weight of disbelief. Maria, it wasn't my choice. She cut me off. There are always choices, but you've always been weak. I should have seen it sooner. That was the night she walked out, the kids in tow, their small hands clutching backpacks as though they were heading off on some strange adventure instead of leaving their father behind. I stood in the doorway as the taillights faded into the dark, and something inside me broke in a way I wasn't sure could ever be mended. The house was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the old clock in the hallway. I walked from room to room like a ghost. The kitchen smelled faintly of her perfume and dish soap. The living room held the chaos of toys scattered across the rug. In the corner, a crayon drawing my daughter had made of us as a family hung crooked on the wall. A house, 2 smiling parents, 2 kids holding hands beneath a sky of impossible blue. A lie in wax and paper. That night, the silence pressed down on me so heavily I couldn't breathe. I needed air, space, anything to remind me that the world was still moving, even if mine had stopped. I grabbed my coat and walked out into the night without a destination, just the rhythm of my shoes on cracked pavement carrying me forward. The city was hushed, storefronts shuttered, street lamps buzzing. My thoughts swirled, each darker than the last. Who was I now? Without the job? Without my family? What use was a man who couldn't keep the roof over his children's heads? The questions echoed like accusations in my skull, and for every one I had no answer. After blocks of aimless wandering, I saw it, a diner, its neon sign sputtering against the night sky, buzzing like a lifeline. The windows glowed warm against the cold street, and for reasons I couldn't explain, I pushed open the door. The air inside smelled of coffee, bacon grease, and something fried too long ago. The vinyl booths were cracked, the linoleum floor sticky in places, but it felt alive, a small world tucked away from the storm outside. A waitress with tired eyes poured me a cup of coffee before I even asked. I wrapped my hands around the mug, savoring its heat, and stared at my reflection in the dark liquid. The man looking back at me was hollow-eyed, shoulders sagging, a stranger wearing my face. I don't know how long I sat there before he arrived. The bell above the door chimed softly, and an old man shuffled in, his coat too big for his thin frame. His steps were slow, deliberate, as though each carried the weight of years. He glanced around, and to my surprise, his eyes landed on me. Without a word, he crossed the diner and slid into the booth across from mine. I opened my mouth to protest, to tell him the seat was taken, but something in his gaze stopped me. It wasn't intrusion. It was recognition. He studied me for a long moment before he spoke, his voice raspy but steady. "You look just like my son." The words hung in the air, confusing, heavy. I frowned, unsure whether to respond. I'm not," I managed finally, my voice hoarse from hours of silence. He gave a sad smile, one that seemed carved from sorrow. "No, I know you're not, but you remind me of him. He left 35 years ago, never came back. And he trailed off, his eyes falling to the table. I've spent every day since wishing I had said the right words before it was too late." Something twisted in my chest. I didn't know this man, but the grief in his voice was so raw it cracked through my own despair. We sat in silence for a while, two strangers bound by absence, by loss, by the weight of regret. Then slowly he leaned forward, his eyes locking onto mine with a piercing intensity I hadn't expected. And that's when he spoke the 5 words that would change my life forever. "Don't abandon them like me." His voice cracked as he said it, and for a moment the clatter of dishes and the hum of the diner seemed to vanish. It was just us, his regret, my despair, colliding across a chipped formica table. Those 5 words burrowed into me deeper than Marielle's accusations, deeper than the factory manager's call. They weren't advice. They were confession, warning, and plea all in one. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My throat was too tight, my chest too heavy. Because in his words I heard my own reflection. Was I about to become him, a man remembered not for what he gave, but for what he failed to give? I saw my kids' faces flash through my mind, Lily with her gap-toothed grin, showing me her first loose tooth just weeks earlier, Thomas still carrying that battered stuffed bear everywhere, the one he insisted was braver than all of us, and me, walking away from them, letting them grow up with a father who gave up. The old man didn't say more. He just sat there, eyes misty, staring at me like he was seeing someone else through me. Finally, he sighed and pushed himself up from the booth, his body trembling with the effort. He dropped a few crumpled bills on the table for coffee he hadn't touched, then shuffled toward the door. The bell chimed as he left, and then he was gone, swallowed by the night like a ghost that had only come to deliver those words. I sat there long after, my hands gripping the edge of the table, his voice echoing again and again. "Don't abandon them like me." By the time I stepped back outside, the sky was paling at the edges. Dawn, a new day, and for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt something other than emptiness. I felt choice. I went straight to Marielle's sister's house. The driveway was crowded with cars, the porch light still burning. My stomach churned as I walked up the path, my fists clenching and unclenching. I had no plan, no speech prepared, only a determination that I would not turn back this time. Marielle opened the door, her expression sharp, defensive. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, stepping outside and pulling the door halfway closed behind her. "I'm not leaving," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. Her eyes widened, thrown off by the steadiness in my tone. "You don't get to make demands. You lost that right when I gave up, and I'm done giving up." Behind her, a small voice broke the tension. "Daddy?" Lily peeked out from behind Marielle's legs, her hair tangled from sleep. Thomas followed, clutching his bear, his eyes wide. Marielle tried to block their view, but it was too late. They had seen me, and in that instant, everything shifted. I knelt down, my arms open, tears stinging my eyes. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm not leaving again." The kids rushed forward before Marielle could stop them, colliding into my chest with the force of 100 heartbreaks healed at once. I held them tight, burying my face in their hair, the scent of sleep and innocence overwhelming me. Marielle stood frozen, watching as her children clung to the man she had dismissed as weak. For a flicker of a second, I saw doubt in her eyes, maybe even regret. I rose slowly, keeping my arms around them. "You can hate me," I said to her, my voice steady. "You can call me a failure, but I will not let them grow up believing their father disappeared. Not while I'm alive." The silence that followed was heavy, charged. Then Marielle stepped aside, her jaw tight, her eyes glistening, though she tried to hide it. "Fine. You want to be here? Then prove it." And I did. It wasn't easy. I picked up shifts wherever I could, loading docks, night security, anything that would put food on the table. I was tired, bone-deep tired, but every night I showed up. Every weekend I sat with Lily as she practiced piano, even if all she could play was a stumbling scale. Every morning I walked Thomas to school, his small hand gripping mine like it was the anchor of his world. Days turned to weeks, weeks turned to months. The routine became life, and with every laugh, every hug, every bedtime story, I felt the distance between us shrink. They stopped looking at me like I might vanish. They started looking at me like I had always been there. But the old man's words never left me. They rang in my ears whenever I felt the urge to give in, to collapse under the weight of exhaustion and shame. Don't abandon them like me. One evening, months later, I found myself back at the diner. I had never intended to return, but something pulled me there. The neon sign still flickered. The bell still chimed as I pushed through the door. I looked around, searching for him. The booth was empty. I asked the waitress, the same one with the tired eyes. The old man, thin, gray coat, sat across from me a while back. "Do you know him?" She frowned, wiping her hands on her apron. "Honey, regulars here I know by heart, but no one like that's been in for years. My chest tightened. I tried to explain, but she only shook her head. Maybe you dreamed him up. We've all done stranger things when life gets heavy. I left unsettled, but not afraid, because whether he was real or just the shape of my own conscience wearing another man's face, it didn't matter. What mattered were the 5 words he gave me, the 5 words that saved me, saved my children, and rebuilt a life I thought I had already lost. Looking back now, I realize that the night I thought I lost everything was actually the night I was given everything I needed. Not money, not a job, not even a marriage, but a reminder that being present is the only wealth that matters. Jobs vanish, houses crumble, love can betray you, but your children, your family, they only ask you one thing: don't leave. And I won't, not ever again. So if you're hearing my story, take this with you. When life strips you down to nothing, when the world tells you you failed, when the people you love walk away, remember the 5 words that saved me. Don't abandon them like me.
If this story spoke to you, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that remind us what really matters.